Edison storage battery people bought the mercury here from New Almaden, because everything we had here at New Almaden had to be in connection with something in it, so we had, oh, now this was an article about my museum before Doug did all this work. That's out in the Indian room. That's the altar that we fixed, and the article. Steve Saunders, S-A-U-N-D-E-R-S, Steve Saunders. Were you able to get to the tapes with the wire?
Not yet.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I cleared the hole for it.
All right. Now, here are some deals of, it says Perham Foundation on them. I haven't heard them for years.
All right.
I thought we could perhaps listen to at least part of them and see what they were.
Oh, sure we can, yeah. I'm just getting ready. Let me turn this off. All right, time on that yet. Just take one and see what's on it.
I don't know what they are.
Farnsworth here.
All right.
Philo.
Philo Farnsworth.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So then you got these little stoppers in there. We'll see what happens.
Is it really rotate?
Yeah. Should come up any moment.
Has to come to the.
You still want me to 21 side?
big bugs.
Television and the San Francisco Bay Area, right down to today, as a dedication of the California State Historic plaque marking the site of Farnsworth Laboratory.
Oh, this is,
Mr. Sven Zolley
Litigation.
is from San Francisco,
that was in
a
San
graduate of
Francisco.
Polytechnic High School and Stanford
And I had,
University,
yeah,
who came here to go to Green Street in 1934 looking for a job. Instead, he was counseled by Arch Crowley of Farnsworth staff to
Okay. Well, that says on here,
that's when I worked, when we did the dedication of Farnsworth's plaque up in San Francisco.
okay,
Gee, good, this sure takes me back.
I think we've got a second copy of it. First of six, actually Jane Morgan, she gave lectures?
She was here with me.
and the course is going to be chronological. You can get the book in the Foothill Library here or at your local public library, or you can order it from the publisher. But there are some of the pictures in there that are so good, and I don't have slides of them because they're hand painted pictures. And some of them are diagrams which don't show up on this projector. Well, thank you for coming, thank you for waiting so long for the beginning of this. But I'm very happy to report that the security at this museum is marvelous. And in order to take anything out of their artifacts, you have to come the day and you have to sign them out and under supervision. And then if you want to mount them and put them in a projection machine, it takes a little time to get them all in order and get them numbered and get them glued on. So I hope you'll forgive our delay, but it impresses me that the Foothill Electronics Museum is handling these precious early pictures and artifacts with such care. They have an excellent staff, and it's a dream come true for many people here today in this room that have been working hard on the whole project. This course is going to cover the history of electronics here in the Bay Area. Now, that will necessitate our skipping some wonderful people who did early...
That works. Did you want to listen through the whole thing?
No, I'm just trying to place it.
This is six lectures by Jane Morgan.
Oh, it doesn't sound like Jane's voice.
Well, it doesn't at all, but
Turn it on the other side, it may
I
have
thought it
been.
sounded like Jane. It was Jane.
yeah, I guess.
I haven't got our position. So I went back and said, Pat, and I said, do you want me to send an SOS? And he said, yeah, go ahead. And I said, well, where are we? He glared at me and he said, we're on Finger Rock. And I said, well, where's Finger Rock? And he said, we're on H.U., south end of Formosa, H.U. Island. Well, then I thought to myself, he's a Britisher. And he puts H's on where they don't belong. And is it H.U. or H.U.? So, well, I went in, I decided. So I went in,
Nice.
Well, what I'll do, I'll put them on my machine and make time to listen to it.
Yeah, that'd be neat to get copies of these. Okay. This is dedication. More dedication. Now, I've got
be present today, but I do want to certainly recognize the part of the contribution, I suppose we could call it, of blood, sweat, and tears that has come from Dr. Flint. I regret that he couldn't be here. Fortunately, I have to express another regret. The individual we were looking forward to being present was also unable to come because of illness, Dr. Leonard Fuller, who I guess, and I say I guess because many of the histories of these people's backgrounds I'm not familiar with. But
Oh, this, okay, I'll just put them back in there and I'll play in the evenings.
Yeah, what I'm trying to do with all of our tapes, every few days I find a new one around the museum
Yeah,
somewhere.
sure.
And some of them are marked, some aren't.
Yeah.
There's a couple unmarked tapes that were very important. And I've got them all lined up to, I'm gonna just sit and listen to each one.
Yeah, that's where I like to do that during the winter when your people don't go wandering around.
Quite so much.
Boy, this is certainly, boy. New Almaden, March 17th, 1960. To the members of IRE. Through your co-chairman, Earl Goddard, you have sent a number of questions to Doug and me and the Perham Foundation to be answered. As we understand, the answers of these questions will guide you in your future connection with the Foundation. Before answering your questions, Doug and I feel an explanation on our part is very important, and the following is it. Years ago, my mother told me that nothing in this life is yours. You are only caretakers for the future, be it your children or any possessions. With this in mind, in 1926, when my parents bought this property, I set my goals to have a museum on this property preserving the history of this very important part of California. In 1949, the original New Almaden Museum was opened by me in this house. In 1952, when Doug came as a cash customer, we found that there were many items here of which he had the component parts, and vice versa. We formed a historical properties, a corporation, planning to purchase the properties on both sides of this property and carrying out an extensive program. Unforeseen obstacles prevented this purchasing of expansion on this property in 1955. December 23rd, 1955, the flood took away 100 feet long, 100 feet deep from the center of the creek to the back of the present building and 14 feet deep. Also extensive damage to this one building that we had within that area. This loss of some $30,000 put us out of business for 2 years. During the interim, we applied for a government loan of $5,000, which is based on a 10-year repay. By 19 at Westcon, Bill Essler, that's the guy, he was a public publicity man. Bill Essler and Ralph Heinz Sr. spoke to several firms about Doug's idea of preserving electronic history. 6 promised $1,000 each. Doug was told to come and start the building as the money was in the bag. Upon arriving home and waiting 3 weeks for some real proof of the money, which did not show, Doug started to build a room 14 by 20 with lumber bought with part of the government's money. Ralph Heinz came over one day and said that he would give the $1,000 he promised. This he did, and upon talking with Bill Eitel, he gave his also. For these sums, we have signed notes with the understanding that when we had formed a nonprofit foundation, they would be considered gifts. In 1958, after visiting Hearst Castle, hearing the story of how the Hearst family tried to give the property to UC and having it refused, and after much trial found that the state beaches and parks would accept it under certain conditions. That awoke us to the fact that we had better think of the future of our collections, as we did not want all our work thrown out and sold as junk. So the Perham Foundation was founded. Austin Warburton, a very good friend of ours who was very sympathetic with our ideas, a fine attorney, volunteered to assist and help guide the project. Ralph Heitz Sr. and Bill Eitel have accepted the duties of Vice President and Second Vice President. Austin is treasurer, while Doug is president, and I am secretary. Needless to say, the income during 1958 and 59 was insufficient to carry the load, so payment of the first mortgage had fallen in the rears quite a bit. In May, when your group had the meeting here, Ralph explained the urgent need of money and pledged himself a matching amount. The question was asked, how much is needed? I spoke up, $3,000. Gallantry, you came forward, raising $1,000, and Ralph matched, leaving $1,000 balance deficit. For these amounts, again, Doug and I have signed notes to be considered as gifts to the Perham Foundation when it is accepted by the government as a tax-deductible corporation. Some months later, Paul Giganti came forth with the very fine idea of having several fundraising events. Unfortunately, at the same time, he approached Ampex for a donation. Ampex came to us wanting to borrow some items to take to Los Angeles for a special display. Doug told Mr. Selstead he did not loan but rented and would be glad to rent these artifacts for $500 cash or a tape recorder which we could use to a great advantage in our history gathering. Now remember that statement. When he returned to the office, was informed that Ampex had given a tape recorder to the Perham Foundation, but not us, and that would be the one in exchange for the use of the articles. This has meant that we are out either the money which we need badly or the tape recorder. This will not happen again. So we made a contract as the New Almaden Museum renting to the Perham Foundation for their special client Ampex the necessary items in return for tape recorder to be given as a prize in the future. The purpose of the Perham Foundation is stated in the Articles of Incorporation and Bylaws. It is to be a live functioning program that can carry on through a board of directors consisting of people well qualified in business management, aware of history, both electronics and local library, educational fields, and coordination with the schools and colleges. As long as we live, it will be impossible to have outsiders care for the operation, the museum, while we are absent. Getting the property next door by the Perham Foundation gives the opportunity for the others to participate, and when good faith is shown both by actions and words, we will release unto the foundation ownership such things in our possession that can be properly cared for. Upon the survivors' deaths, The real estate and stated museum items are to be given to the foundation, excluding personal belongings which are to be for my children. December 9th, 1959, Bill Eitel gave to the foundation $1,200, which in turn was loaned to us. This, on December 30th, 1959, Bill Eitel and wife gave the foundation 600 shares of IMAC stock to be used for the betterment for the foundation. When in February the property next door was to be sold on a foreclosure, with full accord, the stock was sold and the property bought for $5,578.06. Difference plus little title search of $27.50 and $47.52 insurance caused a note of $253.08 to be signed by all board of directors. Austin Warburton advanced the loan, which will be cared for in the near future. I believe this gives a very clear picture of the Perham's position versus Perham Foundation. Should you have any questions, bring them forth. We'll try to answer them for you. Doug and I appreciate your interest, consideration, and hope you understand our personal feelings. That to have spent many, many hours, much personal money, and loads of love, we are bound to be cautious and perhaps a little jealous as to how and what becomes of the project. Believe me, there have been many times that we have thought of selling the whole thing and traveling, but then we looked at each other and say, this is ours, something we've always wanted. So quit feeling sorry for yourself. Dig in and get out of the mess the best way we can. So we go on doing without ordinary necessities so that our baby can grow. Now,
Wow, that's right.
this refers every time, and Cy loves to rub this in. He reads that the contract that the Perham Foundation, I'm sure it's going to come up, in lieu of paying them back money or giving them that property, that they would give us the stock because I wanted to use it for a post office. And Cy rubs that in every time. Well, this is, but I wanted that. I'll make copies of that so that can go for good. Because the Perham Foundation has been reformed at least twice.
Maybe more, huh?
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure.
2 times, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, but this is what we did to begin with.
That's fascinating.
Let me see. Now, this is a letter to Miss Ann Brophy, CBS Radio on Jessup Street, San Francisco. And this is March 27th, 1970. Enclosed, no, dear Miss Brophy, do you want some ice cream down?
Yeah.
Help pass it down. This is a follow-up on our conversation this morning by phone. Enclosed find the 12 articles which I believe are of importance to your station. After looking them over, and should you care to purchase any or all, they are $10 each, making the total $120. You may have them for 2 weeks on option, but during that time no copies are to be made, or are they to be used in any way that might deny me a future sale. Thank you for contacting me. Now, let's see, this is from Dear Mrs. Perham, I enclose your check for $525 in payment for the coil and photograph of Dr. Harold, both of which I understand are now in the possession of KCBS radio cordially. Miss Marie Webster. Yeah, and then this is January 31st, 1970. Mr. Maury Webster, Vice President, Division of Services, CBS. Thank you for the check of $525 which was received yesterday. At this time, I wish to express my appreciation of the cooperation of Mr. Neil Darraw and Clark Vilas in this transaction. Speaking with Mr. Vilas the other day, stated I would be on the lookout for any other material which might be brought to light when cleaning up the rest of things in storage. What's that? See all this? Why? This is what Doug was writing about himself. Yeah, he started this one. Being a collector of many sorts, it has brought to me so many interesting places. So while a numismatic friend and I were prowling in Virginia City, Nevada, and seeing as well as hearing the reports of the silver wealth from this famous Comstock lode, I ventured the remark, quote, if it hadn't been for the new Almaden quicksilver mine south of San Jose, the United States could not have produced a great amount of gold and silver, as this was the largest quicksilver producing mine in the northern hemisphere at that time. My friend had not visited, nor had he heard of New Almaden, so we proceeded to pack and drive to visit New Almaden. Although I had not been there for some 4 or 5 years, to me it was an old stamping ground. Now this is what the college attorney wanted, how I meet Doug. And I just rattled it off because I was driving through the main street of New Almaden, 13 miles south. Do you want to put this down?
Yeah.
Right. 13 miles south of San Jose in September of 1952, I noticed several changes in the sleepy haven bygone day mining days. No, it could not be called a ghost town, as the Casa Grande, the mine manager's home of former years, had been converted to a well-kept summer family club where swimming and picnic could be enjoyed. Some 12 houses south of the Club Almaden, in front of one of the 3 interesting adobe cottages, there was a small museum sign. Here my friend and I decided to stop and see if any of my former statement was to be substantiated. In one room on a small porch were many documents and artifacts relating to the mine's production and shipping way bills to Nevada Comstock. While talking with the curator and owner of the property, Constance B. Cambish found the home for my new Almaden collection, gathered some 40 years previous. Subsequently, by March 1953, the Historic Properties Cambish Perham was founded, operating New Almaden Museum. After my retirement from Varians, I moved to the museum, and we have increased and displays from 1 to 5 rooms, including local Indian, mining, blacksmith shop, and a research library. In keeping with Santa Clara County's history, Mercury in electronics is a natural home. This gave us the opportunity to display and document the history of the Federal Telegraph, Varian, and others of which I have had a hand in one way or another in the early days. Here again, being a collector, I had saved and stored these materials, hoping someday to be able to properly house and display them. Now the Perham Foundation, under the Historic Properties Guide Hand, is in the process of realizing these long-desired dreams. Along with electronics, the histories of light, telephone, telegraph, and power with their Santa Clara County connections are shown. Schools, scouts, clubs, and many organizations, as well as the general public, visit and call on us for lectures on local history, which we augment with slides. The electronics section has put on the displays for communications, Varian, International Rectifier at Statler Hotel in Los Angeles, IRE in New York, and Westcom, San Francisco Cow Palace in 1957. Since September 1957, 5 rooms have been added and are close to completion. Soon these too will be open to the public, showing the cavalcade of electronics from Tesla to Varian. In the near future, a fireproof vault is contemplated to hold documents, files from the DeForest and Varian era. Being a collector of many sorts has not only brought a very active retirement, I've done all the construction and display work myself, but it is available untold pleasures and education to many of our community. I know what he did with why he did this. We had to do to get our $5,000 loan from after the flood.
Oh,
So this is one of the things we had to put in.
Yes,
Would you like a copy of that?
Yes.
I think this is very important.
Yeah, this one and this one,
Yeah. Now here are one of Douglas Perham's billheads that he used in his shop. This was Institution of Radio Engineers. This was in 1962. The Board of the Directors of the Perham Foundation met on Friday evening, November the 2nd, 1962, to discuss the Foundation's non-tax status and other matters related to its continuation of operation. Copies of the following letters. U.S. Treasury Department to Perham Foundation, Austin Warburton to Ralph Heinz, W.W. Eitel, Connie Perham to Austin Warburton, were sent to the members of the committee for review and study prior to our meeting again to discuss what our plan of action would with regard to the Perham Foundation should be. Ralph Heinz Jr. kept us informed and assisted in the preparation of the copies mailing. Bill Eitel and Ralph Heinz Sr. met with the committee and explained the current thinking of the Foundation Board. It was suggested that the members of our committee prepare a proposal for submission to the Foundation's board, which would provide the following. First, a slate of men who would be willing to be elected to the board of the directors of the Perham Foundation, from which names would be proposed for election to the office of President, Vice President, Secretary, and Treasurer. Second, a proposed program of operation for the Foundation that would make it possible for the Perhams to retire. They kicked us out from the active conduct of the conducting of the Foundation business matters. The letters that have been distributed were discussed with regard to the details that should be included in the proposal to the Perham Foundation Board of Directors. Members in attendance were Ralph Heinz Sr., Thomas E. Atherstone, Paul Giganti, Earl G. Goddard, Ralph Heinz Jr., W.W. Eitel, H. John Shaw, William Patton, he was from the audiovisual of the county school, and James Warnock. That's good too. Oh, this is another one. It's a different subject. Let's see. Now this is December 28th, 1963. The following items of the Perham Foundation electronic collection have been removed from the display currently housed in the New Almaden Museum at New Almaden, California. It is planned to use these in a display or displays during the interim period prior to the availability of a new museum building on the Foothill College campus, at which time the entire collection will be again available for public display and use. Now this gives you, did you know that Ralph Heinz had a patent suit about tubes?
No.
And he supplied them, yeah.
Well, wait a minute, maybe this is in respect to the Gamatron?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard that, I don't quite remember without thinking
I think
about.
Earl took them home. They may not be, that would be something to look for if you get into the place.
We
They were
have some.
all in boxes and framed, and, see, he had to go against Dr. DeForest, and he didn't want to. But the only way, that's when Dr. DeForest was in jail, when he sold stock.
Mhm.
And they told him that the judge said that how could he sell something that's in the air? And so Ralph came up and showed where the audience, the whole thing had changed. And so it really wasn't, Doctor didn't call it his invention, but he wanted to sell stock so that he could, but I'll make a copy of that, that's very important for you too. Now, this is from the fellows up in Canada. Dear Connie, thank you for the invitation to the dedication of your museum. However, time and finances don't permit me to visit on September the 24th. I hope you're well and wish you success with the project. Perhaps Penny and his wife and I will be able to get down your way during the winter. Our communication display, Vista 33 in Edmonton, is still quite popular, attracting about 115,000 visitors a year. We're planning to complete an office tower complex in Calgary late in 1980, and we'll have about 2,000 square feet of display space for our artifacts. Some of them will undoubtedly come from your early collection. Time sure flies. It's been 11 years since we hauled all the phone calls there. This is John Niehaus. He was such he and his wife came in here one evening. They were on their vacation, and I was as sick as a dog. I had a phone call from a neighbor up down the canyon that day, and they said they were going to move out of where they are, but there were a lot of antiques, and they wanted to know if I wanted to go up and take what I wanted for the museum. And I was out sprinkling the weed material, so I changed my clothes, everything but my flat tennis shoes. I didn't put on other shoes. And I drove up there. That's a very steep grade, and the road is this way and up there. So I had to park down here to get up to where she and her husband and another man, the real estate man, were up there visiting. And I went out, and I just touched her hand when I slipped on the dry leaves and went down all the hill, splits, for the first time in my life. Oh, I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything. So I said, just leave me here for a little bit. So they went in the house and got a blanket and put it underneath me and used it as a carry down the house. And they said, don't you want to go with the doctor? I said, no. It's just the strained muscles, that's all it is. It's going to take me time to do it. But so I didn't look at anything that they had. But I was able to drive home, and I tried to call Frank. He and his wife had gone, it was on a Saturday, and they had gone on a trip. I didn't know that. John's, my second boy, his wife's uncle had just passed away that morning, so there was no need of me calling them, they were too busy. And Greg was somewhere, I don't know where he was anyway. So I just curled up on the Chesterfield and hoped that someone would show up, because I just couldn't move even to get to the kitchen. So the knock on the door, it was after dark. So I said, come on in, it's open. I can't get up to open it. Here it was John and his wife. and immediately took over, and I said, here's some money, will you go down and get me a hot water bottle or an electric pad, and get food, and you can stay here as long as you want, and you can use the kitchen. So she said, well, we can only stay for 2 days and 2 nights. I said, that's fine. We have another bedroom up there you can go to. So they came back loaded with everything, and they just took me over like a baby. Oh, what a relief that
Oh,
was.
it's
Boy,
just what you needed.
boy. Woo. So then he couldn't come down to see the other things. And then here's the history of the Perham Foundation. I think he was some of those. Now,
Did you survive?
I think I have. You see, you know what it did? It strained the muscles back here, and I think that's one thing why I am, yeah, this one has a lump. I was able to rub this one out, but this one I haven't been able to touch. So yeah, I just
Probably just pulled it away from the
pull it,
bone.
yeah, pull it away from the bone and just, oh, I feel okay, that's
Yeah.
all right. Now this is inventory, oh yes. Then Doug said, I'm going to go down to Mexico and stay for 6 months. I'm going to try you out to see how you can manage the museum by yourself. I said, sure, that's okay. So I got letters out to the board of school, the school board. I happened to be with a group of people who wanted to get the 4-H into Santa Clara County, which we didn't have. These people, some of them had worked with 4-H up in Washington and had been leaders. The husband and wife and the 2 sons became leaders. So I said, well, I think I can work this out. So I called this woman who was the head of the 4-H in Santa Clara County, and I called her and I said, is there any chance of us women having a special meal and invite the supervisors to that meal? She says, what have you got up your sleeve? She knew me. And I told her why. She said, all right, we'll manage it. So she sent out publicity to all the 4-Hers that we were to be. She got a big hall in one of the county buildings that had a kitchen. And there were 12 of us women prepared the dinner. And we invited the supervisors. And the head man at that time was a grand gentleman. Oh, he was wonderful. He was white-headed, he was gentle, but firm. And he had good lines. He could, lead you. And you wouldn't think you were being led. But anyway, so we had so then they asked me to give the appreciation from the supervisors. So they asked who did the dinner and how did we learn to do it, because it was an unusual dinner. And so we introduced the head lady and told what we were doing with 4-H work. That was during the war, So he seemed to be interested, and a couple of the other supervisors did too. So after we cleaned up, and because they stayed around to visit the children, you see, and so they said, Mrs. Cambish, bring it before the board again. And I said, well, I surely will. So I got a hold of the 2 women and 2 husbands and 2 sons that had come from state of Washington, and I said, would you appear at an open meeting, supervisors meeting, if I can get it so that you can tell the supervisors what the 4-H means and how wonderful it is for everybody? Sure, we'll do it. So I got a date on one of their meetings, and they gave us the whole 4-hour session.
Wow.
And then it came, they wanted to, what's his name? He lived up in Sunnyvale or somewhere up there. And he asked me, he said, who are these people and how did you meet them? So I told him how I met my 3 sons, and I'd gone with this woman who was teaching the women during the war years for getting the idea of learning to cook. I used to have 6 people on my stove altogether. And we'd have a meeting here. Oh, we did so many things, and we had wonderful times. And you would have liked this. We made forms for our dressing, to make dresses, you know. So she showed us how to put the knit material down all the way, and then we took the tape and taped ourselves and cut out underneath here. And so they were having a deal down at the school one night, and they said, let's have something laughable. And I said, well, I've got it. She said, what do you got? And I said, all you gals that have made your forms, we'll put them on the platform of the stage, on the tables, and they'll have the curtains drawn, and they'll have your husbands come out and feel them, and why women
They can pick out their own.
yeah, make them pick out their own. And that howled and hooped, and the fellas, they all got a good deal.
That's funny.
So with that kind of thing, you know, you can get over. Then we had a bride and groom, and I'd be the bride, and the fellow who was the groom, he was about a foot shorter than I, and he was one of the fathers that had been up in Washington. So I said to him, I'll tell you what we'll do. Just before we went out, I said, when we get through married, and we had used little baby pots for the little baby roses in them, and we used a curtain for we had a good deal. I said, you go down and you kiss all the women are over 50, and I'll go down and kiss all the bald-headed men. And we did that, no an uproar then. And boy, we used to have such good times, and they'd bring in money too. We had whist parties and everything else. So we did that. And so after the Perham Foundation decided they didn't want anything but just the electronics, why, Doug said, okay, let's sell the rest. And you'll see on some of the pictures that it says not accepted by Perham Foundation. Now this is inventory and photographs of a collection for sale by New Almaden. The history of power, evolution of light, Edison, Tesla. But I donated the vacuum tubes to the Kennedy School in Fremont, and they had it because the teacher came and asked me, he had been here to see it, and asked if he could buy it. I said, no, not for a school, I will donate it. And they had it for about 3 years, and then the children didn't want to do it anymore, because he was a good teacher, and he taught them. But we had a man that came up here from Los Angeles, Tom's last name, and I gave him a contract to see if he could sell it. And he did, he sold quite a few things, and then I found people around here that wanted things too. So I went down the next Christmas time to Doug at the house, and he said, well, how did you do? I said, well, I've done enough that I can leave you with $2,000 to do what you have to get done here. And I have enough $2,000. I sold $5,000 worth, just the telephone alone. But I had to pay bills with that to bring us up to date. So I've been paying bills and up to date for all my life. But we have done a lot of good with it. So that's, now let's see. These things I picked out, and this is another one of, Doug wrote several. I wanted him to put more personal things in his livelihood deal, but I told Don, I said, when I get through here, I'll write a little article, a little pamphlet, because I knew Doug Perham. And I'll put, here's his death certificate, I have several, but this.
Did you bury him in a cemetery, or?
Yeah, he's cremated, but he's in a cemetery, over at the Oak Hill, and that's waiting for me.
Is that San Jose?
Yeah. Yeah. My mother and father were cremated there in Oakland. But I don't see any use of having to take so many 6 feet, they're a little bit over 6 feet for a grave. And so, that's all.
Well, space,
So our
yeah.
headstones are already there. I went over to Oak Hill not too long ago, because I read in the paper that the local Indians didn't have a burial ground for the bones. And I got on the phone right away, and I called Oak Hill, and I said, may I speak with the general manager? The woman said yes. So I got this man, and I told him who I was, and I said I knew the former owners. They had just died. And I said, some years ago, when I had the map and everything of where I had found that there were some Indian bones that were, they were going to throw them away. Oh, I know how it was. I had this young boy who was working with me. He lived over that way, and he was an amateur historian. And he came over and he said, Connie, what can I do? There's a new subdivision over our way, and I went over the ground and I sifted and I found some Indian bones. I said, how do you know they're Indian? He said, well, I found a mortar and a basket. I said, well, that proves it pretty well. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, well, my mother won't let me take them in the house. They're out in the back porch. I said, okay, well, I'll call Mr. Blackburn. He used to be a police officer. And then when he retired, he went in with another man to buy out the Oak Hill Cemetery. And I had done some research work before that about New Almaden. And New Almaden Mining Company has a big plot for the people of the miners that died. And we have, there's a place over here, another cemetery, 2 more up on the hill. So I had that kind of an in. So I went to Mr. Blackburn and he said, what do you want to do? And I told him. He said, okay, we'll call you back in 48 hours. Well, they went out and surveyed that whole cemetery, and they found a triangle about 15 feet across, and I think it was 10 feet on both sides. And he said, I will donate that to the Indians. He said, what kind of a headstone do you want? And I said, well, don't you think just a rugged rock would be good to put on that? He said, that's good. So he had the engraver engrave on the chisel in. And so then I had this boy, I said, now from on, you go on. You're the boss from here. So he called the Indians, and they said that would be wonderful. So they were going to bury these bones. And I took my tape recorder, and my gal friend with me, she took her camera, and we went over there, and we were all standing around this looking at things and visiting more or less, when a Raggedy Ann young man came in with an old jalopy car, and he said, you can't bury the Indians in here. I said, why not? He said, well, it's not Indian ground. I said, was any of this ground, when the Indians here, who did it belong to? He said, well, it's just part of the land. I said, all right. I said, look, this group is, the cemetery is willing to donate this. It's not going to cost anything. He said, you can't do it unless you have an Indian chief to give the ceremony. I said, okay. So I called Mr. Blackburn over, and he said, took the young man aside, and he said, all right, young man, if you belong to the Indian group here, we'll give you 2 weeks to get a person to come out and do the funeral. So he just turned around and told us it would be 2 weeks before they could do it. So 2 weeks later, we went over, and they brought an Indian from Choctaw. He was a Choctaw. And I'm sure he did it both in English and in his Choctaw Indian. But he was giving his own service for himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, he took it to heart. So, and he had a young lady with him who took him around. So, but this article that I saw in the paper, it didn't seem to me that they knew that they had a place over there. So he said, I said, I think I can find where it is. He said, oh, we have the maps, and if you can come over, we'll take you out there. So I went over, and saw the place, and he said, here's a better map, we've added more land to it, he said, and any time that you want, he said, there are 6. And I said, how do they ever put names to them? He said, I don't know, but they gave them names, John, Dick, and Harry, you know, like this. But I said, well, but they're from around here, so that's okay. But he said, if anybody else wants it. And so I got in touch with the Indian group there on the Alameda, and because they had been burnt out of their former building after the fire. And I gave them quite a bit of material, and they just sent me a letter thanking me for it and to show my cooperation. So, anything that will help someone,
So did they make a stone? Did the
Oh
stone
yeah,
for
it
that
has
was
all
just
the
a-
names of it, yeah.
Oh,
So, I said they were happy, and that's all
What
you can
is,
do.
what is that cemetery, what's it near?
Oak Hill. You
Is
go
that right down, back
on
down here?
Go on Camden, to continue
Yeah.
on, well, all right. From here, you continue on towards San Jose on the Almaden Expressway. And you go, see, it's 5-6 miles to there. So about 10 miles, the road branches off and says,
I'll get that map from the, George just got a real good map of the area.
yeah.
I love these pictures in here. And you know, there's pictures of pictures. And I don't recall seeing any of these, maybe we never got them.
No, because we paid to have those done, especially. Yeah,
Yeah, those are nice.
Yeah.
Where did they go?
we only had one set ready. So when the Perham Foundation did, they didn't take the one side window. They had a photographer who I knew. Somebody of the Perham Foundation knew him and hired him to come up and do it. And they spent a week he took just half, or he'd take two shells and bring them out there and put them on that concrete table, and he would take a photograph of them, and they never went back in. They were never, no. The only thing they could go by was what we had, our listing.
Oh, I've never seen these.
Well, then, now wait a minute, I know you don't. Yeah, these are done. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Now let's see. Now there's some more here. Now where's DeForest? I love it.
You know, let me show you something here.
Okay.
See this board?
Sure, I know that.
Oh, do you see the board on there?
Oh, do I know that?
Well, it's there. And I've always wondered, what in the world is that board with all those clips?
The clips, yeah.
Oh,
And see
no,
here
the-
are, yeah, here the original, here's all the original. But of these, oh, Doug, absolutely. He traced every single exchange. God, see what he did first? He used this, and then he realized that he could. See, here's more here.
Yeah.
Here's DeForest there, and a little bit. There has to be another one. Oh, that's what caused the rumpus between
Oh,
the Perham Foundation
a little shaky there,
to get this is, oh, I see. No, there has to be a page there, yeah. Oh, that's for Pioneer Day, okay. That's, now,
That's a Bell Albert.
yeah, that's Mrs. DeForest and myself. That's in front of the plot that was put there, and this was Doug's house, but he lived in, they had taken it out by this time, and there's Dr. Fuller.
Was that the one on Alma, the house?
Emma, yeah, Emerson.
Right near the circle?
Yeah. It's
That was Doug's house?
That was Doug's house.
Yeah, I walked by there one day, I was gonna go back and take a picture of it one day. No, I walked by and it was gone.
Yes,
They snuck it out of there.
they tried to have us buy it and put it up on Foothill College property. And Doug and I said, absolutely not. Now this is Doug, but no, this isn't the one I want, because it has to be in here. This DeForest. or maybe another group of pictures that I have with it. It has the, Paul Gigante took these pictures. And Paul took those up to Doug's house. But I'm wondering, see, Doug, Paul took these.
You should see the pictures Paul gave to me.
Yeah, he got beautiful.
Yes, the girl's very pretty.
Oh, yeah.
And she doesn't have any clothes on.
I tore up the letter of Dr. DeForest. I just wouldn't keep it any longer.
Hey, look,
Yeah, yeah,
Chester Ferguson.
yeah.
Do you remember him?
Well, he was there at, I think that was because we all went to that,
Yeah.
went to that
Mr. and
meeting.
Mrs. His wife was alive then. And we know him.
Yeah, I just got a letter from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lytton paid for the banquet. He couldn't come down. But his wife, had these are the names of all the people, and she wrote invitations to all these. The ones with this,
You know, I would like to get a copy of that page.
okay, put it in
Yeah.
here.
And this one here,
You see, that's why I wanted to have you alone. Because you get too many people, they're all picking things up, and you don't get things done. And I want this to be done this time.
well done,
Well done.
not medium rare.
Not many know. It's been rare for quite a while.
I'll settle for well done.
Now, listen, you have your paper there. Why don't you tear some out and
Make a list.
make a list and put them in that book. And anything that you want copied.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, I think that's all
I
right.
do too.
I
Yeah,
like you
very
in
nice
there.
picture.
Who did that?
I like you, that's the problem.
Who did this? Let me see. Palo Alto Times.
Huh.
I don't suppose they've kept the negative.
Well, you never know.
Well, you can try them.
Yeah.
However, what I would do with it is to, just photocopy it if you wanna keep it. There's a great, called the, what is it, the dark room? And there's two of the prettiest girls in the world running the place. And let me tell you, they do real good work. It's in San Carlos. So,
Well, you can have a negative made off of that, and,
yeah.
yeah, you can keep the negative and have a copy of it.
Yeah, I have sort of a little collection of certain ones that I make.
Well,
myself.
surely, yeah.
Let's see, let me write down.
Do you like that or not, Dr. DeForest?
That's nothing for us.
This, Edison, is an Edison, and this man, his name is Fisk. We had the whole series of booklets that he wrote about Edison. And we had about 25 glass slides of Edison. And they were all oldies. We had copies made, and we sold several copies, several people. And then we found somebody who wanted the negatives, and I'll never forget, he came out here on a Sunday and he sat up in the back there, and he wanted to buy the cylinder, Edison cylinder, that Doug had. He said, he sat down on the edge of a chair and he said, I'm gonna stay here all day till I buy that. And Doug came in, he says, I've told him it was $1,000 and he just won't go.
What's he doing in Perham?
I don't, he wanted.
He's still there.
He's on the backyard.
Yeah, I don't know, he came from somewhere down south. So he didn't wanna leave, because he wouldn't be coming back. So I said, oh, to heck with him, go ahead, take what he wants. So he gave Doug $1,000 for it.
Let me go out and get some of those yellow stickers. Is that what?
Can I get
All right, fine.
Yeah, in my
No,
briefcase.
That's the best way, and then we'll put those away.
Yeah.
And I have to have some more copies, not from there, but from old timers that came, some of the descendants came in the other day, and I'll be taking them to the photographer.
Descendants of yours or Doug's or?
Oh, what I'm getting at, I'm going to a place to have some more done, so I can take the whole bunch done. See if I've got this now. You see, whatever I have to do,
How are you?
I
I think about one where it is.
so I'll try to remember to take it, but I have a photograph of a miner pouring the mercury into the flask. And his grandson came 2 weeks ago, and, thank you. And he said none of the family had any pictures of his grandfather. And he said, could you have a copy of that one made? And I said, yes. He came back last Saturday and he said, thank you. He said, I am not bothering for naught, but he said, my father says he'd like to have 3 copies. And I said, okay, do it, better to do it now than to do it
Yeah.
later. So I'll be going this next week to take over.
No, just put your name on those.
Yeah, that
That's
one.
easier than writing that whole
Yeah.
description.
Well, I certainly don't want you to incur expenses on my behalf, and so whatever you,
Well, I'll keep track of them.
yeah, okay. Are you gonna copy any of these?
Not particularly, not unless you want them, or you have your own.
I have yeah, I'm gathering, well, I just, when I see something.
Yeah,
useful.
sure, yeah.
The thing is, here, this museum stuff is gonna get stored maybe. I don't know, it may be stored 10 years, and I won't be able to get at some of it. I do wanna write a little about some things. So I'm trying to copy those things up.
All right, listen, next time you see Rod, ask him, because he loves to play with photography.
He's good.
Oh,
That guy is so smart.
And his wife just kills him. It kills me to see a man waste his living his life with her. It really is too bad. She has no sense of humor. And I guess it's because she's been so
Because she's
ill.
so ill, yeah.
She's been sapped. And I don't know her as well as I know him, simply because it was his father and he that did the business with Doug and me, not the wife. But ask him, maybe he told me he had opened up his developer room again.
That's what he did, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe he'd have fun doing that for you, and seeing what you.
Well, I can do this myself too, so.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking that,
I bought a copy machine for sort of next to nothing. And I know when my son saw it and his girlfriend was a photographer, they have a copy stand.
oh yeah,
And they looked at mine, and it turns out that the thing I got is worth about $1,000, excepting it's missing 2 elements to it, and to get it going, I
Yeah.
need to spend $500 or $600 more.
yeah,
And it's one of those machines you wonder how can anybody charge that much for it.
but once you get them, you find out,
Yeah. Okay. Well, wait a minute, there was something.
well, let's put them down over here.
This last one.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is see how many of these guys are still around. Right, right.
Forgot what his name was.
Hmm?
He forgot what his name was.
Oh,
It was funny at the ham meeting the other night, I almost forgot everything. I was the last guy, you're supposed to say what your name is and what your call sign
Yeah.
was. And I started off, I says ABC or something, and,
I'll put it up so that you shouldn't have to flip through each
Right.
page or not. If it's
Well,
sticking out.
I think it ought to be just,
just put it down on the floor. If you have any more, just put them down there too.
I guess the other things where you had some,
Well, look them over. Okay, don't, come on, I can do it.
That was halfway off the chair.
That's his death certificate. Now this, I think, might be of interest. But I still will. This week and next week I am tied up tight. then I will have a release. I want to write back, I'm going to call a TV deal here, any one of them, and ask how I can get the name and address of the TV deal. It's in very close to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Because Doug's radio station was bought by a family, and that family closed up the radio station and turned it into a TV station. And then I'd like to write and find out what happened to any of, because Doug sold them the whole history of his thing. He got, was it $500? Got that too.
Let's see.
Now let's see what's in here.
I guess, I don't,
Now look over there.
did you put it on the floor maybe, or?
Yeah, no, I did, they're here.
Oh, that's what I'm looking
Yeah.
for.
Now look and see if that's the ones you want to.
Yeah, Douglas and Perham.
And these are the latest. Now let's see, what have I got this page in here for?
This is the, what do you call them? Timeline. I
Well,
guess.
yeah, because you might find 2 or 3 in there and they aren't the same.
Not exactly, yeah.
So I will have to add to or take away or something. These are my last deal that were sent to me.
Let's have some ice cream.
All right.
Oh,
Would you like some of your dessert with it?
yeah, we may have some
too?
cookies. Oh, I found Oak Hill, it's down by the fairgrounds. Oak Hill Cemetery
Yeah,
is
yeah,
right by the
right, yeah,
fairgrounds, so
uh-huh,
just go
yeah.
down here and
And
over on
the-
Curtin.
Yeah, the Almaden miners,
This is,
yeah.
Now,
the,
do you think that,
Yeah.
what's his name, not Elwell, but the guy who started the radio station, KQW.
Oh, Harold?
Harold, do you think he'd be there somewhere?
oh, in the cemetery?
Uh-oh.
I don't know where, you could, all you can do is to phone and ask them if they can, or go there, because they've been, they were very courteous to me.
I know when we've driven by it several times, we
Yeah.
thought, gee, that's a pretty cemetery.
Yeah, and they have they've taken over the Chinese cemetery here and put it, and they have added some more back here, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I may come across that, I will see. I still have some more to show you. That's what I wanted to do. And you have to have quiet. You can't
Yeah,
have
oh, yeah,
everybody
can't be-
running in and out, that's for
Sure.
sure.
Here,
Do you want chocolate or vanilla ice cream?
Both.
he likes both. Yeah. Need your medicine pot?
Thank you.
It's 3:30, I don't know if you want that.
Yeah, good time.
Go up and down and around to get it loose. He said, oh, I'll be back in a few minutes. And he said, how do you feel? He came back and he said, how do you feel? I said, well, I'll tell you really. He was a young man. And I said, I don't know, but I'm awfully horny. And he said, what? I said, I'm awful horny. And he said, oh, and he turned around and went out. He came back with the nurse ahead of him. And I said, "Oh, I see you." You met the doctor. And she said, "Yes." And she pulled out a hypodermic deal. And I said, "I don't need any of that." She said, "Doctor says you do, need to be calmed down." I said, "I was tormenting him." I said, "I have the music going and I'm keeping beat time with that." But I said, "Yeah," I said,
Oh dear.
So then when I go back to see him every month about my knee, so he always said, you get into his office, he said, "Have you any jokes for me?" And I said, "Yes, I have some jokes." "What kind of jokes do you want?" He said, "Well, what kind of jokes do you have?" And I said, "Well, I have a lot. What do you want?" I said, "I can understand why you want jokes, because you go into surgery every morning and you're busy with people that are groaning and growling and all that. And when you come out, you have to face the rest of the day with other customers, patients." So I said, "I can understand why you need stories." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you a story my husband used to tell." And he looked at me and I said, "Yeah, my husband." And I said, "I've told this to many of meetings. I've gone to the Lions clubs and the other clubs, and I tell this joke." I said, "If you don't mind listening to it." He said, "No." So he sat down, kind of rested, and I said, "Well, are you a union man?" And he said, "No, I'm not a union man." I said, "Well, this is a union story." And every time I say it, I always say that too, and I introduce the story. And I ask how many men are union members, and they all get their hands up. They're all thrilled. So I said, "Well, there was a young man, and he had just been taken into the union. And the union told him he had to have clothes that had the union marker on them, and they had everything had to have the union message on it. And they told him everything he did had to be union. He couldn't go to a restaurant unless it was union, all that. So, fine, that was good with him. So one evening he got an itch that he wanted to go downtown and get around and have some fun. So he went downtown, and he went into the part of town he thought he could have a good time. So he went in there and looked around and saw a house with a red brick front. And he walked up the stairs and he rang the doorbell, and a woman came to the door. And she says, "Yes." He said, "Well, is this where I could get some refreshments and relaxation?" She said, "Yes, this is, you get some relax." He said, oh, excuse me, I forgot to ask you, "Are you a union?" She said, No, I'm not union." He said, "Sorry, I can't come in. Do you know where there's a union house around here?" She said, "Yes, you go 2 blocks up on the second house on the right-hand side. And be sure and tell the woman when you get there that you want a union." So, and while she closed the door, and she phoned her girlfriend up the 2 blocks and said, "Be sure you're a union." So he got up there and he rang the doorbell, and this woman came to the door. And he said, "Is this a union house of relaxation?" And she said, "Yes, it is, sir." "Oh," she said, "but she said, it's $125 for the union fees." "Oh, that's wonderful. It's just what I wanted." So he pays the $125 and goes into the living room and sits down, and all the gals start walking around. And she said, "Well, have you chosen who you'd like to have?" He said, "Oh, I like this blonde over here." She said, "Oh no," she said, this is redheaded. She's over 65 and she has Social Security." You don't get it?
Yeah.
She had Social Security, so she would have priority over
Oh,
the younger
yeah,
ones.
You had to get that. Okay, I
so
missed that. You have to
maybe
take-
I
you have to
switched it
take
up,
this
yeah.
up, yeah.
Yeah, she was 65, and
Yeah.
so
You get preference.
then the fellas all laugh, because when you go into like the Lions or any of these men's clubs, the women go in with the lunchtime to go to eat. I go in as a guest, sit at the head table, and then they clam up as soon as they see me. Always a woman, you know. And the fellows all tell jokes before they start to eat. And I always say that, the best way to digest food is to have a good joke and laugh over it and relax. So then when I start to talk, I'll be introduced from the New Almaden Museum, and I'll have all my slides to show, and I'll say, "Well, I'm pleased to be all here," but he said, "I know that you fell as soon as you saw the woman at the head table while you climbed up." I said, you can't enjoy your lunch without having some laughter with it." And I said, "If you don't mind, I'll tell you a story that my late husband used to tell. And then I've had them come back when I meet them in another place. They'd say, "You gonna tell that story about the union?" They'd ask me for it, so I thought, well, that's okay then.
That's a good one.
So it'll work out.
That's cute.
But that's the kind of stories I tell. that's as far as I go, you know. But they, well, we'll see what comes out of the 14th.
Yeah, I'll be with them,
You gonna come with them?
Yeah.
Oh, good, I'm glad, that's fine,
yeah.
okay.
I tend to be the, what do you call it? Devil's advocate, or.
Yeah, no, it's okay, that's all right,
It's
no.
just that,
No.
I think, I talked to the other fellows about these things.
Yeah, coming and going, sure.
Because Don and,
Yeah, then you-
the crew, they don't always, I don't think they do it necessarily on purpose, I can't really tell, but the word doesn't always get around. And-
Oh, sure, yeah. So, I just, but I think I remember correctly that next Monday after work, Edwin Van,
Al Carish,
yeah, okay.
he sounds like a Arab, I call him the Arab.
He's supposed to come with his truck and trailer, because I have some more things from over there to
Okay.
give you folks, you know. Then I can clean up that room over there.
I don't know him very well, but he's eager to help, and
He lives home with his parents.
yeah, you know, what he reminds me of how somebody, he wears these white shirts with epaulets.
Well, he's in business. What kind of a business is he in?
He's in a machine refurbishing.
Well, he
business.
wants to look nice. Yeah.
Yeah, but those epaulet
Epaulet.
shirts, you know what they remind me of, the brown shirts the Crocs used to wear in this country.
Yeah, I
And I
understand.
wonder, I keep asking him, you sure you're not in one of these brown shirts? He said, no, I got a white shirt.
Yeah.
So,
He said his
Brown
father
shirt.
lost his job. And he said it's pretty hard for my father to see me working and doing so well. A little bit of jealousy. He said my father won't be 60 for a couple of years, and I can see that too, couldn't you?
that's a real, because, you know, with me, I was on the slate to be laid off several years ago. And if it weren't for some friends of mine, you know, other guys that I worked with, they said, George, I was in the first group of layoffs at SRI, 3 years now. And
About 3 years now.
anyhow, what was I gonna say?
Well, your friends suggested,
Oh, yeah, they said, George, why don't you try for disability? Well, I had other friends, a couple other guys I knew went in there, and they think that was a hard time. So I didn't think that there was any way I could get any disability. And so I went and tried it anyhow, and my doctor said, well, do you want to work, or do you want to get off? And at that time I knew that if I went out into the outside world, I probably would not get a job. Not easily, because I'd already probed around. And so I elected to fill out the forms, and the doc signed them, and they went off, and I went on to disability just like the good shoe fitting. Well, you know, you think about it, there's nothing that one can do for Dr. Mike, what do you call him, Parkinson's. There's no cure for it.
No, this is very true.
You're always getting worse, and
Yeah.
so
It is like,
they don't even argue on that one.
no,
I think each year, usually on the anniversary, you have to get the form checked
Yeah,
by the
yeah.
doctor
Yeah.
again. They wanna make sure
Yeah.
you're still unable.
yeah, it's just like an epileptic.
Yeah.
But now he's 65, so you don't have to do that anymore.
Well, let's see. The
That was,
thing was, I had the foresight, and some years ago, to sign up for long-term disability, which was a separate policy.
Yeah,
And having that in hand, we managed.
paid very well while he was.
I didn't
Just
lose
a year.
any
that's
salary.
good, no, that's
Yeah.
fine, no, that's good. But yeah, it's.
Yeah, he was lucky, but other
There's so many-
guys were not
Well,
so
a lot of
lucky.
people, it breaks their back, to speak,
Sure,
you know,
sure.
breaks their
That's
whole
right. Yeah, a
deal.
friend of
And
his who
so-
was actually a little younger
Yeah,
lost
oh
his
yeah,
job, and it was just really tough for him.
yeah.
Henry.
And
Oh, Hank,
they think
yeah.
that they've been cast aside and they
Yeah,
can't do
and
anything, and that's a
his-
poor
his
attitude.
confidence has gone down.
Yes.
Yeah, I just
There are other
got very
things that you
angry.
can do, doesn't have to be a union job. You could, even if you, even if you go around and mow your neighbor's lawn or something, that's something that you can do.
Sure.
Here I pay $135 a month to have my garden, both gardens taken care of. That's why I took these people, homeless people, but these people want to be homeless. So I have now given them 2 months' notice. On the 25th of next month, they have to be out.
Yeah.
And now they're beginning to wonder what they're going to do. So, oh, please don't take me
Connie?
back to Lizzie here.
Connie,
Yeah.
now I want you to make a funny face.
Upon her.
You go. Come on, you did the other day.
See if I can do as well as you did.
New sound on that one.
You remember when we left the other day?
Yeah.
You warmed the cockles of my heart with that big whoop, war whoop.
Oh, we were leaving for our night at the Doubletree.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't blame you. I don't blame you. I don't blame giving you a roof. That's
Yeah, well,
wonderful.
that was a nice room up there.
Yeah,
You
we were
enjoyed
up on the
yourselves, that's good.
12th floor of
Oh,
the
they got
Doubletree.
good
Just
view of the
before
valley, huh?
the next floor were the penthouse
Uh-huh.
suites.
Oh, that's
And
fine.
yeah, very nice view.
Good.
Quiet, very quiet.
That's good.
Good timing.
Good
Yeah.
timing.
What was the occasion? You said you won them at,
Yeah, this was at a ham club
oh,
party, and Edith had gone down to see my daughter, and I was alone, and I thought, well, I might as well go to the club, you know,
Yeah,
the
sure,
meeting, and
yeah.
gee, I won the room and something else.
Oh, and that little ceramic box that you gave me.
Yeah.
No, that
They
was
had a lot of
nice.
little prizes, and
Well,
this
you
is
know,
probably a
you know,
promotional thing.
You know,
Yes.
it seemed to me that the whole darn place, everybody was winning something.
Good, well, that's fine.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's-
But the room, we looked at the rates, and the room normally rents for $150 to $160 a
Yeah,
night.
yeah,
And it was a nice room.
yeah.
Everything was just fine,
But
but it wasn't
everything is so-
fancy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I couldn't say $150 a month.
Well,
Gosh,
up that high.
it could be,
Did,
yeah,
did,
because
well,
it had
wait,
the.
did you have to use the key to take you up to it, and you get in the
Not
elevator?
the elevator, no.
Oh,
But there was a card for the door.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
And we did have a balcony, and they didn't all have
Yeah,
balconies. We had a
okay.
balcony.
But now when I used to go for 29 years, I went with our coin club at the Jack Tar Hotel, which is now a cathedral. And the coin club is a non-profit organization, and they can't pay us for working in the coin show for a week. But what they can do is to give you, to pay for a room and give you so much money for your food during that time. That's what you get paid for. So the last 2 years, they gave me a room up on the 8th floor, and on that same floor, there was a what do we call it?
Outhouse,
Huh?
an outhouse.
Orange.
No, no. It had a good like living room, and then
A suite. Sweet?
No, it wasn't a suite, but everyone who was from the 8th floor up to the 12th had a key to go into the elevator and turn it, and it took you up,
Oh, yeah.
and you were served free meals. And in the morning for breakfast, you'd have all kinds of cantaloupes and everything, and no pay, and you could have tea, coffee, and had a man and a woman taking care of you, and you had cereals, whatever you wanted, so you didn't have to go down to the dining room.
Mhm.
And then it would open again at 11:30 and close at 1, so you had a lunch.
Mhm.
And then in the evening, from 7 until 10, it was open. So you didn't have to go out and buy any food, you know.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So that's what's very nice to do. But that room, the room I had was a double bed, two singles. Because I kept telling the gal who had charge of giving us the rooms, I said, now look, if you give me a double bed, you have to have the sheets changed for a double bed every day. When you come here for a week, I can stand the same as I do at my home. I wash my sheets once a week.
Mhm.
But you only have one bed, but but you have, it's a single bed, so I don't have to go that.
Mhm.
So I said, that's the way to do it. I don't see why you have to go any more than that. But it was a lovely room, and then would take, the other gal and I, who was in charge of the deal, she'd take us, the hotel would pay for a lunch, a dinner or a luncheon for us to go together with her. And we were always really respected and all, but after 29 years I'm through because of the whole new group of young people coming in, and they were ruthless, and I said, I don't need this. So I stayed home this year. And
Coin collecting.
Gee, I should have brought,
We should have
Albert's
bought,
coins
we
down.
have a coin collection.
oh, you do, what kind of coins?
Well, my collection is everything. But I must have, oh, you know, I have a huge collection of pennies.
oh, I have a coin.
You know, for years, I never used pennies, I still don't. And I used to just,
Put them into it.
when there was a big pile of change, and not just pennies, I'd put them in these sealed, these metal cans. And I guess the idea I had was sometime there's bound to be a coin in there that somebody might want. My kids I was thinking about, and they did go through them once. But when my father died just recently, we got his coin collection, and we should, well, maybe we can bring it over next
The
time.
majority probably are silver dollars. They used to go through
Well, yeah,
and Nevada.
silver dollars, you have to watch the market. Because the silver goes down, gold goes up, and when gold goes down, silver goes up. You know, there's a big trick in coins. They have to be perfect to really get your high prices.
Yeah.
Or ordinarily, for a dollar, having a dollar that's been worn, you'll get just the price of the silver per ounce, that's all. So it's always wise to keep, now what I have is what Doug had. Doug was a collector of our first kind of money that was in the United States. And before that, we had the one bit is 12.5 cents, 2 bits is 25 cents, 4 bits 50 cents, 6 bits 75, and a dollar is a piece of 8. That's where you get the piece of 8.
And the 2 bits.
See?
Well, you know, some time ago, somewhere I saw a book I might have seen in the library or whatever, that showed the historical
Yeah.
evolution of the monetary of this country. In my mind, I went back to the Indian heads, and I thought, gee, that was where it started.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah.
think that too.
See,
Indian
his
pennies.
grandfather, Doug's grandfather, on his mother's side, was a whaling captain, Captain Cleveland. And Captain Cleveland left, they were from Martha's Vineyard, back in your country. And they would go out whaling down to the south, where the whales would go down, and then they followed the whales up to Alaska and San Francisco. He was the captain that brought the ship. The Niantic into San Francisco and beached it and made a hotel out of it and made more money as a hotel than he did ever in any of the shipping deals. Yeah, and he married his young lady when he was in Australia. He met a young lady that was on her way from Portugal to visit her sister that was in San Francisco. And he married her at the Hawaiian Islands. And there was a next ship to him. There was many of the captains took their wives on either 3, 5, or 10-year cruises. And so Captain next to him and his wife gave a wedding dinner after the young couple were married at the Seaman's Bethel in the Hawaiian Islands. But to help defray all of this, why the guests were asked to pay $1 for 2 people to go in. And so the young James Cleveland, the groom, gave $1 to Captain Flagg to pay expenses, and when the young couple were ready to leave, our Captain Flagg gave them that same $1 back again. And it's an 1845 piece of 8, and I have it.
Oh, amazing.
Doug kept it, and I've had it.
Great.
And then Doug, being a coin collector, he had marvelous coins. But after the flood, we had to sell the coins to get going, yeah. Because I wouldn't let him take any of his salary from his wife or anything until he quit her. So I have all that. That's the only kind of coin I really like. But when we came down here in 1924, and I walked around the backyard, and I saw 2 little black things, odd-looking things. And I picked them up, and I said, well, I don't know what those are, but I'm going to take them in the house. So I brought them in the house, and I hid them. And I didn't touch them until I met Doug in 1952. And he told me that he was a coin collector and would have liked to go to the coin club with him because he was president. Well, you know, when you like a fella, you like to be with him. So I said, sure, I'll go with you. So we went, and that got me started in coins. And he said, don't get any coins because we've got plenty already. And then he turned over. But anyway, he said, I'm not selling those. So I have them in the safe. And then going with him, I got to meet them. Oh, they were lovely people. And so then, after he passed away, why, I went back, and they took me in, and this mother, they just took care of me, the whole thing, and they put me to work at doing things, and as I say, I was president for 2 years, from 74 to 76, and then I was the other group in San Francisco for 29 years, and I liked them, but this last year, people are entirely different. And I was surprised Sunday. I heard that from so many of the old-timers there were 6 of us old-timers sitting at the table. I said, don't you go to the meetings? You haven't gone to the meetings quite a while. He said, no. He says, it's all changed, Connie. It's all changed. And I went over here, she says, it's all changed, Connie. You just don't know the group anymore. You have the old friendship that we used to have. Because I used to have them out here for an annual potluck supper, and we have, the board of directors, I have 6 to 10 that come out, and we have a good time, but that's all gone. So that's the way it all bounces, but I have the old money.
Oh, I think it's fascinating.
Oh, I
stuff.
found these
Yes.
things out there, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when I met Doug, I said, I have something like that. He said, go get it. So I brought it out, and he said, well, that's one that they used to put in their ears. See, they used to make the money by stamping it with it, and then they'd work off the edges so that it would fit, and the men would fit it in their ear because they had long hair in the early days, and they went to war, they could hide that money. People wouldn't go after their money. So a bit would fit in there nice. So I had them made into earrings, and I wear them when I go to coin shows. Yeah. So that worked out.
Well, next time we come by, we'll bring our coins, you can tell us something.
Well, I don't know, I'm not a perfection. Only I know is, and I have all the coins I want, I don't want any more. So but you can get very fine books and very good articles. Just go to clubs too, you can go to clubs.
Well, what we want to do is, these were all Albert's, and we want to divide it in such a way so that, because he had 3 children, George and brother, has a brother and a sister. And so how to either divide them equitably or sell them, or
what to do is to
this is right now is our problem. We're not sure how we're going to
Well, you want to
split
get a good appraiser and show him the whole deal, and then say, well, now I have so many people just divide with. How can I do it without causing any problems?
Yeah. Well, I think
Use the water in the gallon jug. It's
a plastic jug right by the sink.
We don't drink the tap water.
Well, I guess my first thought is if it's worth going to an appraiser. I mean, if they're mostly silver dollars, there are a few older pieces. but if they're mostly the silver dollars, there's not even, and they've all been used, there's probably no point.
Well, you use the dates will make a difference
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
And you're living over there, no,
Portola Valley.
Portola Valley, let me see.
Well, I know the fellow who runs the, Rudy at the Treasure Island Stamp and Coin
Oh,
Store.
yeah,
Used
yeah.
to, well, he was at Town and Country Village, he's moved to Stamp Place now. But I told him about it, and he said that the fellow that does his coins was very good.
Yeah, well, you can do that, if you get someone that you can trust.
I think I would trust him,
Yeah.
as much as anyone.
Yeah.
Trusted Rudy,
Yeah.
he's been friends since the kids were little, and when the kids were little,
Well,
they all collected stamps, and we used to
Yeah.
go in and see Rudy all the time, and then kids grew up, and one by one they gave their collections back to me, this
Yeah.
was, if you don't want it anymore, you keep it in the family.
Yeah.
So I have it all, and quite a few years went by, maybe about 5 years ago, I forget what the reason was, but for some reason I went in to get some stamp supplies
Yeah.
or something from Rudy, and he remembered me, and he remembered the kids, so it's been almost 20 years.
Yeah, well,
And, he's all right.
Yeah.
He's okay.
yeah.
And but they didn't spend a lot of
Well,
money.
and
It was just-
another idea is, I had some coins that, when you do something for the coin club, they can't give you money, but they give you money, have made as a coin so that you can keep it.
Yeah.
Well, I would keep those for 4 or 5 years, and then I would take them back into the coin club, because they have a meeting, it's the second Wednesday of each month, and take them in, and they have an auction, so you have, and those people, they don't charge you, the club doesn't charge you first if you're a coin member. And so then I would, if I'd win something, I'd say, well, oh, come on, go to the treasurer, I'd say, come on, Wally, you know I'm not collecting coins anymore, but how about you giving me some money for this, and you can resell it?
Mhm.
So he said, well, I'll give you the price that you get. I said, okay,
Mhm.
that's all right with
Sure,
me.
sure.
No.
Mhm.
So that,
Oh, I just got a new coin. We get the little blurbs from the U.S. The printing office where they
yeah, I think
it's
for
the
Philadelphia.
commemorative coins. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I just got one. They issued one on the Korean War,
Oh,
and that just came yesterday.
Mhm,
Yeah, it's a good size one.
oh, yeah.
I get those all the time. I don't get them all, but once in a while.
No,
Once
yeah,
I got
once
the
in a while,
Eisenhower
yeah.
one because that was the first president I voted for,
Yeah,
and I got the Korean one because that was sort of my generation's
Yeah.
war. I lost
Yeah.
a friend in the Korean War, and just once in a
Yeah.
while. And
Well, this-
they're just you don't touch it. Of course, they're all in a
No,
box within
they're
a
all-
box
yeah,
within a
yeah.
box, which is kind of nice. But someday kids will have
Yeah.
those. But we
That's
found this
so
with George's dad's. If it's worth, what I want to know first is it worth spending money to have somebody appraise it? And if it isn't, well, we just split them up 3 ways probably.
yeah.
Our son looked at it and he knows a little something about coins, but he couldn't really tell it. The old ones are really not
Well, they're
good
worn, so
condition.
that makes a difference.
Yeah.
But I say that some dates are more effective than other dates.
Even if they're in bad shape.
Even there, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
well, that's the way with stamps too.
Yeah,
I mean, I
sure,
collect the
yeah.
stamps and,
Mhm.
there's some that I wouldn't even look at
No.
if they're even slightly smudged.
Yeah,
But
surely.
others,
Yeah.
So, well, I think we better get our little show on the road. This is so pleasant, Connie. I hope we didn't tire you out too much.
No,
Sure enjoyed
Oh,
it.
Connie,
very much.
it's been great, I hope you're tired.
I'm not tired, but I can
Well, I was
rest.
hoping that we wore you out.
No, you didn't wear me out.
Oh, sure.
Okay, thank you. I think you better turn that off. You got a blinker up there. Oh, there, okay. And you wanna take these with you. And then I'll
Let's
see,
see.
are you coming back on the 14th?
I don't think I'll come,
Oh.
not with
Because-
again.